We have one more speaker before we're going to take a break, and we're excited about our next speaker as well. We're going to stay in the United States. In America now, we're kind of heading into the evening of the American time zone. And I want to mention as well that we have North Americans who are on the line joining us from Canada, also from the United States, in California, in Pennsylvania, in Maryland. So we're excited that all of you are joining us. In fact, I just want to do a little tiny bit of a shout out, just because it's nice to know who you are. And I don't want to miss anybody. MAE Ohtahara syndrome, PCDH19, QARIS, some of the others I think I've mentioned already. Also from here in Australia, Brisbane. Welcome, Brisbane. Sydney. I don't see any Perth yet. Where are you, Perth? Adelaide, are you there? Then switching back over to the United States, Pennsylvania, as I mentioned, Riverside, California, Denver, Colorado, I bet I know who you are, Los Angeles, and others. So wherever you are, thanks for joining us. And we have one more speaker, an important speaker, before we take a break. And I'm excited to hear her presentation. And we'll be hearing next from Vanessa Vogel-Farley. Now, before I introduce you to Vanessa, I wanted to mention a song that I heard when I moved over here from the United States. I heard a singer who's incredibly well known to all Australians, Paul Kelly, but I wasn't familiar with him. And I remember the first time I heard his song about the Gurindji people and their struggle for equality and land rights for all of the Indigenous peoples here in Australia. And the refrain of that song is one that became something that I took to heart. And I think probably it's something that's meaningful to you, either from that song and what it means in that context, or from another context as well. From little things, big things grow. And I think there's a theme to that in what we're talking about today, because everyone who's part of this call is part of growing this community and reaching all of us. And that's certainly true with our next speaker. And Vanessa is somebody who has grown up in the American Midwest on a family dairy farm in Wisconsin. She went to university in the state of Minnesota, where she studied chemistry and biology and French. She's obviously a very smart woman. She joined a research lab at the Center for Neurobehavioral Development and got thinking about the brain and how it develops both in babies and newborns, and then as children grow and become adolescents. That thinking, that program, that work took her on to Boston, where she worked with the Boston Children's Hospital in collaboration with scientists there at MIT and Harvard, examining several clinical populations and also leading over into autism. And again, I want to point out the way our communities overlapped and intersect and connect, and the importance of those networks in reaching out to those other communities. Along the way, Vanessa got married. She has 3 young boys, but she has stayed very busy in this space. And she is now, and this is what we want to talk about, the executive director for Dupe 15Q Alliance, and serves as the research and development strategy lead for Rare X. And she's one of the founding leaders of the Commission for Neurodevelopmental Copy Number Variants, or CNVs. And that is a patient-driven collaborative group of stakeholders. Does that sound familiar? Working together to advance new technologies to treat people with neurodevelopmental disease. So as we said, from little things, big things grow. Vanessa, it is exciting to get an opportunity to meet you virtually via Zoom and to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here. So glad to be here. And so I met Mike is never one you should be able to follow. But I'm gonna do my best. I think that he actually teed it up really well for the precision medicine aspect and learning from what we've learned from COVID and shared science. So I'm gonna share a little bit of our story for the Commission for Copy Number Variants. And I'm gonna share my screen. Here we go. So the Commission on Novel Technologies for Complex Neurodevelopmental Copy Number Variants is a really, really long title for something that brings 3 groups together. And these are 3 groups that have a shared story. And this is Marie, she has RAIN 14. And this is Brendan, who has Duke 15Q. And this is Karina, who has 8P syndrome. And these 3 very, very wonderful and sweet children are extremely complex. These are the 3 kids that inspired this commission. Their genetics are complex, but they are miracles. But their problems progress as they grow up, and in many ways, their care only gets more complicated. Their complexity needs collaboration to help them lead their best lives, and that's the basis of the commission. So we brought together three different communities to create a patient-led partnership driving collaboration. So these three disorders are 8P syndrome, DUP15Q, and Ring14. And here you can read a little bit about those. But those beautiful faces are all supported by some amazing organizations who were brought together by the founding organizations of the commission. The collaboration was awarded one of the inaugural Rare as One grants from the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, and to support some of laying some of the needed foundation to explore the future novel technologies that are needed to approach therapeutics in complex chromosomal anomalies. So our mission was to establish a commission as a patient-driven collaborative group of stakeholders to advance novel technologies to treat people with neurodevelopmental diseases with complex copy number variants and large chromosomal anomalies. So we heard a lot of letters and numbers, lots of them, lots of that, lots of it. These three groups represent essentially, I would say, as an example, DUP15Q has at least 25 genes that are duplicated for it. 8P has a duplication of at least that size, plus a deletion, plus a translocation. And Ring14 is a special one in itself, that it creates a ring from the chromosome. So these are really, really complex, very, very complex genetic changes that need a little bit more technology and a little bit more science and a little bit more Matt mites in the world to address. So we came together with this commission, and the commission is a group of people officially charged with a particular function to bring something newly produced into working condition. So a little bit of an introduction. While I could spend most of my time listing all of the amazing scientists, researchers, and advocates who have joined together to share their learnings and ideas and to think outside of the box, I'll just introduce you to my co-founders and a couple of our advisors who are integral to maintaining our focus and our goals. Our commission founders at the top, you see Beena Shah, who is the wonderful mother of Karina, who leads Project 8P. Myself, the executive director of the Do15Q Alliance, and then we have Issa DeWitty, who's a wonderful mother to Marie, who leads the Ring14 USA. Then we have a wonderful advisor, and Dan Lowenstein, who some of you may not recognize in the epilepsy community. He's a very, very collaborative face in this space. And then Dan Oppenheimer, who is a rare disease therapeutic development consultant, who's really one of those people who keeps us very focused, because when you bring three extremely driven women together, we tend to get a little bit, off topic sometimes. Our goal in the commission is to identify research tools and technologies that address the knowledge gaps in chromosomal anomalies and that are needed to develop novel therapies, to use innovative discovery methods to enable structurally agnostic investigations, meaning that it can address a group of CNVs, duplications, deletions, and/or ring anomalies. In this space, the rising tide very, very much lifts all boats. If you can fix DUP15Q, you can fix some of 8P, and you can probably fix some of Ring14, and that's the only way we're going to get through this together. And they can only be successful through collaboration across labs, across institutes, and across advocacy groups, and are inclusive and accessible to all stakeholders, starting with patients and families, clinicians, and researchers. Matt made a comment in his last talk that some of the things that come forward, it isn't inclusive and it isn't accessible to patients as easily as somebody who has been in the space for so long. So it's really one of our goals is to make it accessible and inclusive of those parents and those families. So we came together and we really decided we needed some guiding principles. And these guiding principles were created to make a very transparent and collaborative environment, with the first being patients as partners to collectively understand disease and remedies under the commonality of neurodevelopmental large chromosomal variations, to promote open and creative brainstorming to drive innovative approaches. This is outside of everybody's need to think that it's my intellectual property, my ideas. It's really to think outside of that box and be open and transparent and honest and even vulnerable at sometimes with some of these ideas, in a culture of trust and respect, with proactive participation and belief that the community approach gets us to the realization of helping patients. Commit to freely sharing and transparency of data, biomaterials, and methods to optimize and expedite impact. The cooperative approach with openness about negative results in trials, experimental shortcomings, and failures. Adapting a dynamic manner to reassess therapeutic goals and change direction when necessary. Overcoming boundaries to unfold into borders that can be crossed with regular and effective communication. Being inclusive, equitable, and encouraging diversity, and ensuring the representation of neurodevelopmental chromosomal disorders in funding, advocacy, drug development, and other regulatory agencies. So our aims as a whole are to raise awareness among researchers and families of the clinical and biological similarities between neurodevelopmental disorders. I think, Sarah, you said it really, really well at the beginning. You said, together we form a very mighty chorus. And that's really what the commission is bringing forward. And we are way more similar in some of these cases than we are different. So we're bringing these things together and supporting research financially and otherwise to understand how chromosomal anomalies and copy number variants occur, with specific emphasis on understanding underlying biology commonalities between diseases, and to advance novel technologies financially and otherwise to treat people with neurodevelopmental diseases with complex copy number variants and large chromosomal abnormalities. So how do we get there? So our journey to treatments for the commission have a timeline because we were funded by the CZI Rares 1 initiative. So this is our journey as we see it right now. And obviously, a lot of these things that you see on the right are to be determined. But what we've done so far in 2020 is we created the commission amongst all of the COVID, amongst all of the things and all of the plans that we had laid to meet in person several times throughout the year, to meet, have robust writing sessions and that sort of thing. We overcame that, we pivoted, and we created it anyways. We've been meeting for about 14 months through working groups and convenings that have been all over Zoom. So thank goodness for Zoom, to create a roadmap and funding for additional research. So you see this, the 20 through 2022, we're really having the eyes on the future for this, where eventually we're gonna lead to breakthrough science treatments and potentially cures. So those working groups are really integral to the core of the commission. And the working groups we decided on and really focusing on were kind of to see that whole idea of translational medicine. And what we're seeing is community and stakeholder engagement. It's not just patient communities, it's stakeholders, meaning clinicians, researchers, geneticists, the scientists, the citizen scientists who are really driving some of these approaches forward and bringing them to the table. The idea of in vitro models, the idea of in vivo models, therapeutics and translational approaches. And on top of it, this leads to a whole lot of data when you're talking about this. So how do we approach the computational and bioinformatics approach? And that's really what we kind of focused on our working groups. So we did hearken the call. We said, hey, any key opinion leaders in this space, anybody who's thinking outside of the box, anybody who has ideas that they want to share, join our working groups. We sent out the call. I think we invited about 120 key opinion leaders. We heard from the majority of them basically saying maybe I'm overextended or whatnot, but we've really secured about 54 who on regular basis over the past 14 months have been meeting every other week in these working groups. They donate their time, they donate their brain space, they donate their ideas to these working groups, and it's really been transformational as to what we're bringing forward. So the goals of each working group is to agree on the boundaries of the focus. So what is the boundary of an in vivo working group? What is the boundary of a stakeholder engagement? Explore the challenges, opportunities, and gaps within those boundaries and begin to identify the most promising research projects and questions. Suggest topics for other working groups as appropriate, because those working groups cannot be done in silos. In vivo educates in vitro, and all of that again flows into bioinformatics and the approach to how you deal with that data. Also to prepare a brief report on each working group's efforts to be shared with at the collective impact sessions. We've met once over Zoom in March with a whole, I think there's 120 people on that call. And then in July, we're actually bringing people together in person in Colorado, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And for these brief reports, listing any initial promising research projects or questions, any requests for the other working groups, which has really led to that cross-collaborative communication that's needed in the space to drive things forward. And invitations for new members with particular experience or expertise. This has been really, really wonderful and transformative for our working groups, where we involve maybe 2 or 3 people and like, who you should talk to, and who's doing this. We're going to make an introduction because their insight's going to be really valuable here. So I'm going to introduce you. And even if it's a call or 2 with just the founders of the commission, and we share those learnings with the working groups and they can't give their time, it's so driving that process forward has been just amazing. It's every day we get introduced to somebody new who is dedicated to lending some insight into this. And that's how we encourage them to work with each other, are when we meet together, and as they're listening to each other, what insights or research ideas generate the most energy for each other? How do you address those significant gaps in knowledge? To what degree would you like a project that is enhanced by a collaborative effort, rather than a single institution or researcher? Meaning, how have you been hindered by kind of being in your own bubble? To what degree can this be pursued in a disease agnostic way? Again, back to all those letters and numbers that represent all of us, but don't represent the group. What innovations and technologies would be needed to help you support this project? Do they exist? Or do they not exist? Is it something we need to develop? Again, back to Matt, he has developed some amazing computational things that never existed that are transformative in this space. And then any new insights that occurred to the researchers when they're talking to each other. I always laugh. My favorite part of these meetings are when the researchers and clinicians fight, but fight in a great way. They're disagreeing towards something, towards a common goal, towards something for parallel processing, seeing each other's ideas and approaches in a different light, and trying to figure out what's the positives and negatives and what's the best path forward. So it's really like every time we meet, these are the things that we come back to. So how do you get there? Where are we in terms of establishing that roadmap that I talked to you? As in any roadmap, you need a beginning, the current state of relevant science and research on variable therapies, and you need a destination, our desired future state of available therapies. And then identifying the obstacles along the way and how to overcome those, the technical and scientific challenges, the gaps in our knowledge and understanding, and as well as other vexing questions that have come up. And then finding the most promising research paths through team science and collaborations, invoking those top experts and the latest protocols, as well as technological breakthroughs and scientific discoveries and new therapeutic options. So we're coming up into July, and we're coming up for a collective, we're calling it a collective impact meeting. And what we want to bring forward is that raising awareness among the participants of the commission, of the current state of that research in the sector, including unpublished and negative research. We've actually learned much, much more between people's failures in this space versus those that are in publication, that are on PubMed and that sort of thing. And I think that's in this space, especially in technical space, that's one of the things that we need a platform for. I don't know where it's going to be, but especially towards these big initiatives, we need some sort of platform that we can share just unpublished or major failures. Develop an exchange for ideas and proposals in a lab meeting style, exploring those challenges, opportunities, and gaps within those boundaries. Begin to identify the most promising research projects and questions. Developing that consensus roadmap that I just talked about with current and future research ideas and priorities. And developing an awareness among that's a duplicate, sorry about that. Actually, it's all a duplicate, but eventually providing content for a consensus and best practices statement for chromosomal anomalies or copy number variants for research and treatment. That last statement is really huge for this. The roadmap and the infrastructure that we're bringing forward, we want to make it available to any group that is interested, that anyone that wants to tap in, that wants to share their knowledge or even learn from ours. We're really taking a disease agnostic approach, whether if you see a child with AP or a child with ring 14 and a child with 215U, unless you're a genetics expert, you're not likely not to know which is which. So the approach to identifying our commonalities is really where we want to be and bringing everybody together. So what we're producing together is in July, that research roadmap that I talked about, where the commission members and commission founders are really partnering together to put that down onto paper for other people. And then in autumn, we're going to develop a potential funding landscape to bring into those, how do we fund that research roadmap? And then 2020 facilitated grant applications that hopefully the commission members as well as the commission founders are able to partner together to bring some funding to that. But that talks about all the nerdy stuff, all the researchers, all the clinicians that have been coming together for the last 14 months. The other amazing thing that's coming forward with this collaboration is shared experiences, a shared experience to shared experiences. For the first time, we're partnering together to host a multi-family community and science conference, a joint conference between 15Q, 8P, and Ring 14 that will take place in a dual format, both in person in Colorado and virtually. They share as I said before, these communities share very similar life experiences. The children face similar challenges and the parents have the same questions. We can answer these common questions more effectively together. Thus, we're coming together in Colorado to tackle our common challenges, teaming up to bring more information, to share resources, and to stream our conference worldwide for the first time. We're going to be together where it makes sense, but we're also going to meet separately to address unique issues and to encourage community where it makes sense. And so this gives you a little bit of a snippet. This is hot off the presses. This is 36 hours of opportunities for COVID-safe hugs, connections between families who are traveling similar roads. And as you can see, there's a lot of community and combined things, but then there's also breakouts where we can really focus on things that are happening in our own individual organizations. Additionally, let's bring back that nerdy research stuff. we're going to do shared research to support cross-diagnosis research towards shared findings. So in person at this conference, we're hosting and supporting in-person direct assessments with blood draws, cognitive assessments, or I spelled wrong, sorry, clinical severity assessments, communication, social communication evaluations, physical growth, and parent-child interaction, and then online questionnaires that are quite similar to and very familiar to most of you parents who are on here, with demographics, genetic reports, daily living skills, social communication, medications and medical history, seizure questionnaires, sleep, behavioral questionnaires, quality of life, as well as GI issues. So all of this data is going to be repository in a shared data source that's open to all communities, researchers, and clinicians who have interest, with the goal to extend this infrastructure to other patient groups and grow the data collection ability. So that's the quick version of the commission. I tried to get in under 15 minutes. I was sort of successful, but if you want to see more, please visit our website. And also, if you're interested in attending our family conference and our science conference, please register and sign up to attend the July commission convening. Both the commission meeting and the family meeting are public, so you are welcome to attend.
Hi there.
Hi.
Sorry, I have to unmute. To be able to talk to you. Thank you. That's a great presentation. When you talk about the people who can join, I just want to ask, are these people specifically in those three or just more broadly as well?
So the three came together. We had to identify groups when we started with the grant. So that's why the three are there. We consider ourselves the founders, but we are not exclusive. So already Ring 20 has been part of this a lot. There's a lot of other groups that are have been bouncing around some of our working groups. So no, it's actually the most non-exclusive group you'd ever want to be in. So
that's great. Well,
yeah,
obviously again, we believe the same thing. I mean, it's that idea of bringing people together because of what we share. So and other people can sign on, and if they want to join, this is your opportunity to give us, where's a link, where can we go to find that? We can post it at Epilepsy Foundation here.
Yep. So you can go to cnvcommission.org, and that's the website. We are a small commission, meaning Bina, Isa, and I are the ones that read the emails when you click to chat or whatever that is. And so if you're interested in learning more and attending the working groups or attending the session in July, just drop us an email. The Commission on Novel Technologies comes to all three of us, and so you'll get one of us. And we usually set up a call and kind of just figure out what your interests are or where you are in your organization or in your journey, and see where we can really be of help.
And is your idea that the roadmap that you're creating is going to be one that other organizations, other foundations, and parents indeed, and therapists and clinicians and others can use going forward, and researchers?
Oh yeah, the thing is, I think in the rare disease space, parent groups and organizations are forced to reinvent the wheel. They're forced to become experts in things that they never should have become experts in. I mean, I don't think that any parent has ever thought about becoming an expert in blood draws and biospecimen repository, but Bina has. And that's one of the things that in general, if we create the infrastructure that other people can tap into, that's our massive goal, that other groups don't have to keep doing the same thing, doing it in a way that is very collaborative and the data is not hindered and siloed, because that's the other thing we hear from the researchers is they have a hard time getting the data. Like the fact that COVID made a big change, even just in publications, is insane. That's not patient forward. It's not going to make the big strides that we need to towards rare disease. And so we're trying to at least help with the logistics, even if it's just, how do you actually get a blood draw at a conference or at your doctor and get it to a biorepository for research. That's where we're here, and that's where we really want to share our shared learnings, because at the end of the day, it's all about logistics. We're becoming the Amazon of this, essentially. How do we handle the logistics to get from point A to point B?
Well, and I have to say, I love what you talked about when you talked about failure, because if you talk to anyone, failure is sometimes more important than success. Seeing where you kind of slid off the highway and being able to look at that, how crucial is that?
I think it's extremely crucial, especially in the spaces where we're getting very complex. So we've learned a lot. Like I think when I came into the rare disease space about 5 years ago, all you heard was, get a mouse model, get an animal model, get a zebrafish model, get a fruit fly model, which in some variants, it's very beneficial. It's something that you can learn a lot about your disorder. But when you get into the more complex ones, those animal models might not meet your needs. and it might be an investment that's not worth your organization's time or money. And so when they like that kind of gets off the road a little bit. So how do you identify which road to take and which road to invest in, and which road maybe to like wait for later, or it might not be ready for you right now, and to focus on? That's really one of the big things that we want to do shared learnings around.
All right. Well, Vanessa, this is all very exciting, and a shout out to the Chan Zuckerberg initiative as well, because it's the funding behind this, isn't it? And a lot of other new proposals as well. If people are interested in that, would you recommend that process as well?
So the Chan Zuckerberg initiative, the Rare as One grant process is wonderful. It's very much they're so focused on capacity building. They really do want to support organizations that are up and coming and really getting engaged in this space where they might not have a full research area, and they do need to bring in experts to help them evaluate what road they should take. And so it is, I would recommend, if you, the new Rare as One call is out right now. If they think they're due on Tuesday, the letters of intent. It's not a crazy application, just as an FYI. It's really not. So if your organization is interested, I encourage you to give it a try. I think that they bring forward some great programming.
All right, we are about to take a break for lunch. We are so delighted that we had you with us. Thanks very much. And we'd also like to thank all the people who are on our call. Vanessa, you had an opportunity not only to speak to us in Australia, but people in India and Nepal and all across the United States and Australia as well. So thanks for being part of this today with us.
Thanks so much.